Welcome, everyone. Hello. This is Adina here from Immigrant Finance, recording for the Immigrant Finance podcast with some very, very special guests today. We have the three sisters of Little Dreamer Publishing LLC, Nidia, Nayeli, and Nadia. Did I say your names correctly? Wonderful. Welcome. How are you all doing tonight?
We're doing well, thank you. Thank you for inviting us and being able to share our experience in our company and our mission with you.
Oh, I can't wait for the conversation. You all are doing incredible work spreading more financial education to the immigrant community and other Spanish speakers. And I can't wait to dig in. So let me read your bios for folks to get to know you all, and then I'll turn it over for you to introduce yourselves. But we're going to be talking a lot about access to education, I suspect, tonight, and financial education in particular. So I'll start with Nidia. She has 2 bachelor's degrees in anthropology and Chicano studies from San Diego State University and a master's degree in anthropology from the Ohio State University. She has extensive experience working as a researcher at a nonprofit organization and institutions of higher learning, advocating for quality early childhood education and supporting the research and evaluation of multiple programs and grants, promoting the educational enrichment of English learners, dual language learners, and culturally and linguistically diverse students in California. Nadia has 2 bachelor degrees in political science and Chicano studies and a master's degree in applied anthropology from San Diego State University. She has experience working for nonprofit organizations in education that focus on advocacy, parent engagement, and curriculum development. She has supported programs that create systemic changes to provide equitable and quality education for students in California and has experience working in curriculum development for parents to become the best advocates for their children's education and life. And lastly, Nayeli has a bachelor's degree in art education from the California State University, Long Beach, and a teaching credential in early childhood education. She has 14 years of teaching experience as an educator ranging from prenatal to seniors. She has served as a teacher in early childhood education, supporting the implementation of different teaching philosophies, which has provided her with extensive experience in developing bilingual educational resources for children, teachers, and parents. She has worked as an art counselor, curating children's art galleries for the city of Long Beach, California, and she is a passionate educator. Her goal is to help all children thrive in all developmental areas, especially becoming bilingual learners. Wow, what an amazing group of women and sisters. Oh my goodness, you all could not be more qualified to be doing this work, I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I have so many questions. So how did it all start? I mean, we may want to start with talking a little bit about your family's immigration stories. I know that's a big part of it.
Yes.
But yeah, take it away.
Yes, so we're a Mexican immigrant family. We came here in 1991. My dad was the first one who came in 1988, and through the Immigration Reform and Control Act from the 1986 to 1988. So he sort of filed his paperwork the last year at the last minute to be able to get his permanent residency. And so through that, we moved here. We know the system, it's a broken system. My parents paid so much money to be able to get us that legal status. It took so many years for us to get that status, and it wasn't until we entered college when my dad was able to become a citizen that we were able to also become permanent legal citizens of the United States. So and just with our backgrounds, with our educational backgrounds in Chicano studies, we understand the immigration implications of living undocumented, living in the shadows of a broken system that just doesn't allow a lot of families to be able to, especially for us, we came at such an early age. We were 5, 6 years old, and my older sister was 7, 8 years old. So we're sort of the 1.5 generation who grew up here, who have some experiences, some memories of living in Mexico, but most of our childhood and most of us growing up it's just been here in California. So understand the struggles that immigrant families face, and we wanted to be able to, especially with education, with bringing resources, bilingual resources, helping parents and children thrive not only in their work, in their education, but also through financial literacy. So that's one of the reasons why we also launched our company, to be able to provide those services for bilingual and culturally diverse children and parents. So that's our connection with the immigrant Brooklyn system.
Thank you for sharing that. Nayeli, Nadia, anything you want to add to that? It's a great overview.
Yeah, and I think just to add to what Nidia was saying, especially being in immigrant families, we know the value of education and the importance of bilingualism. Sorry, we know the importance of bilingualism. When in our backgrounds working with education and really fighting for and advocating for quality education for our communities, I think that's really where our purpose is to be able to provide the knowledge to our communities. Just because they are removed from that, we want to be able to provide them with those resources and tools. And I always say this: the three main things that we focus on, especially for our little ones, is reading, writing, and math. I think those are the foundations that will set them up to do well in school. And so around that, we want to build also the financial literacy. We want to be able to build upon the history, the culture, the stories of the many immigrant families that we see on a daily basis. And so we really want to empower our community to grow in that way. And so we really focus on the 0 to 5 age, because that's such a critical point where they're really setting the foundation for their education. And so our little ones, we call them our little dreamers, because we want them to really thrive, to really grow in a better society. And I always say this: we were the dreamers before dreamers existed, because we were undocumented as well, up to going into college, and so we didn't know what we were going to do to pay for college. I remember Nayeli, she was sort of the first one that went off to college. And so even my parents understanding the system, the whole system of education, being able to go through, because we were not able to get financial aid at that time. And so being able to work through the system so that Nayeli can get in-state tuition, because otherwise she would have had to pay out-of-state tuition. And so it was a lot of guidance from our counselors, from different organizations, from different programs, even at school. We were part of Puente, that really helped us and really guided us throughout our education. And so I think all of those experiences, we really want to take it with us and be able to share with our community and just be able to help them out, because I know that they really made an impact for us. And so that this is the best way that we can try to give back to our community.
Absolutely amazing. I have such a place in my heart for what you're doing for so many reasons. That we obviously have a lot of common mission in wanting the immigrant community to have access to tools to be more empowered. But I'm also a mom of a 2-year-old, and I am so excited to be able to have her read this book. For those of you watching on video, this is a copy of the Little Dreamer Publishing ABC Stock Market Learning Book. How incredible to have this accessible for this age. I certainly didn't have anything like this in English growing up. I don't even know if anything exists in English like this, but certainly bilingual. Is this the first book of its kind?
From what I understand, there's little to no bilingual resources, and there's limited resources for kids. There's a growing, but definitely there's no bilingual. And we wanted to first set the foundation with vocabulary, because a lot of the developmental understanding or comprehension of financial literacy is understanding vocabulary. So we wanted to create a book where it could be simple for kids to understand, make those terminology part of their daily vocabulary. And so we provided sort of basic, easy to understand explanations about the stock market and words and examples of how to start investing. And our hope is to build upon this and be able to create additional workbooks, additional children's books, and go into more detail about how to invest, how to understand the stock market, and hopefully expand and grow the bilingual resources available on specifically the stock market.
I mean, this is really is a game changer. It's a total game changer. I know you all know, but for those of you who are kind of new to this world, I mean, this is the hardest part of learning about finances and investing for many people is the language, the terminology. I always tell people, you know, if you had to learn English, if you're bilingual, you actually have more of a skill set of learning language like the stock market. Like investing language, it's similar, but it's intimidating, right? And that's a big fear a lot of the people in our community have, is just it's learning a whole new language, and it can feel so overwhelming. So to provide this access at a young age to familiarize is going to really change generations of families, I think. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and one of the things, especially for our little kids, and I think I think financial literacy is so new to our community that we really don't know how it's going to be received, especially if you have no knowledge about it. And so, as Nidia was making this book, you know, in the back of our minds, it's like, how are the little ones going to receive it? And I remember we were working on this, and this was during Christmas break. We were working on it, and we had displayed it. And Nidia's son, he's 3 years old, and so we had a picture of it. And he goes to the picture, and he says, "Oh, that's the stock market." And that shocked me so much, because he is a 3-year-old little boy, and he already like recognized stock market. And I was so surprised. And then he started throwing more terminology, money, and all of these terminologies. And I'm like, okay, we're going to be okay. I think it's going to be well received. And I think it'll,
Yes.
you know, I hope that the community really embraces it, because it is, we're trying to change mindsets. We're trying to rewire how we grew up, and especially now with my daughter. She's 5 years old, and she's right now in she wants to do chores, because if she does chores, she'll get an allowance. So I told her, if you do, you know, for a whole week, you'll get $1 at the end of it every Friday. And initially I think I told her, okay, if you save up your money, you know, you'll be able to have it to spend it. But then I rewired myself, because that's what my parents told me: if you save your money, you'll have money. But no, now I'm starting to tell her, if you have your money, let's invest it. And I'm starting to tell her, okay, let's invest, put it in a stock market. Let's you know, and thankfully through Nidia, myself and Nayeli, we've been able to learn and how to our own accounts for our children. And so we're really teaching them. We're doing it ourselves. We're learning as Nidia is you know, guiding us. And so we're so excited of the many possibilities. So we're so thankful, you know, for this opportunity and for this space to be able to talk about this.
Oh, I want to hear. And I think go ahead, please.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be doing really good with this book. As a preschool teacher, you know, our kids, when we're in a school, they're pretending, and they're a pretend area where they have the cashier, they're pretending they have their credit card. So at a young age, they're learning about credit cards, because they're like, oh yeah, my mom uses the credit card to pay. So I think, you know, pretend play is a fun way of introducing this terminology as well. Like for me, once we have more resources, I would love to incorporate it in my classroom, like put the symbols of the stock markets, introduce them to this vocabulary. So finding fun, hands-on activities to introduce these vocabularies would be a great way for our kiddos to learn.
I totally agree. I just got my daughter her first little purse, and it came with a little plastic credit card and the wallet. And she's been walking around and being like, money. It's so funny. Yeah, I'm excited for all of the parents in our community to know this exists as they're learning about investing for the first time. And I know for many of them, it's a source of fear and stress and anxiety. So imagine how different the world would be is if you were learning it through play, and like you were just describing, and having a more positive relationship with money. That would really change things, right?
Yes, and I think the pandemic really um, gave every um, a view of what people who invest and people who don't invest, how it impacts you. A lot of the well-off families, they were finding their big houses, having big yards where they can play. A lot of our families, we live in multi-family households with limited access outside. So we saw the lack of resources that a lot of our families had. And I think a lot of the movement, I know that it's very big in TikTok and in other places, but investing really came to the forefront with the pandemic because it showed us that our communities of color lack a lot of resources, a lot of financial resources to be able to thrive in cases like this in the pandemic. A lot of us had to just experience the pandemic with limited resources, and this showed us that it is important for us to develop or build our financial literacy at an early age. For us, for example, we didn't grow up with receiving any sort of financial information from our family because they didn't have that. And so as I educated myself on financial literacy, I am passing that on to my kids. And I tell my kids, my 2-year-old daughter and my 3-year-old son, I always tell them, reading, getting a good education and investing in the stock market are going to be key to be able for you both to thrive and not experience some of the situations experience or my parents experience where we had to live day by day, paycheck to paycheck, and not have enough, live with limited resources. Want to change their mindset also and change the narrative that we are abundant. And I like your message and your Instagram post because you put a lot in there about abundance, having an abundance mindset, being able to instill in our community that we are abundant. We just have to learn this information so that we use the system to our benefit because everybody else is using it. So we need to use that to help us be able to be financially independent. So thank you for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about what your vision was when you originally started Little Dreamers Publishing. Did you always know you were going to do financial education, or did that come later? And I'm just very interested in this merging of education, which alone is so important. You all have emphasized, and your great depth of experience in your careers have really been focused on, and then now adding this financial education piece. Like, how did that come about?
I think with the pandemic, a lot of the children, because they had to stay home, and a lot of our communities of color, they experienced a lot of limited resources with their education, not being able to get tutors, private tutors, or be able to have hands-on sessions with private companies to be able to not fall behind with their education. And with our own kids, we wanted them to continue with their education, not fall behind. And we saw that there were gaps. We started with workbooks because we wanted to provide our children with educational activities to be able to help them improve their education, but also build their a lot of developmental areas. For example, their fine motor skills, their comprehension, their writing, their reading skills. So we didn't want them to fall behind. And when we were looking for resources, there's just not a lot of workbooks available for kids. So we developed a business plan. We got informed. We learned the steps of creating our own company, registering our company through the state of California. And we saw our niche, which was being able to provide quality workbooks and also children's books on STEM, art, culture, financial literacy. So those were the different areas where we wanted to focus because we see that gap even for our own children. We wanted to fill those areas to be able to provide those resources for our children. So that's sort of one. Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to add that these were bilingual workbooks. That was the gap that Nidia was talking about, and bilingual workbooks. And especially we see the importance of bilingualism within our own children and the community, at large. Just because bilingualism, it's gonna be. I feel it's gonna be the norm, and I feel like there's still that resistance. But I think we're growing and generations are changing. That bilingualism or even multilingualism, it's going to be key. It's going to be the norm now. And so even with us, I think coming to the US at such a young age, we had to learn English. And then we had to relearn Spanish just because, the dominant language took over. And so we just saw how important it is in our everyday life, just being able to communicate with our families, even now work. I think a lot of companies, a lot of organizations know the importance of having bilingualism, just different languages in their own businesses. So we really wanted to focus on bilingualism. I think that's one of the key things. And I always say this, it's our superpower. It's our superpower as a community to be bilingual. And with that comes, culture. It comes with our history. It comes with our roots and our heritage. So there's so many things that come with bilingualism. So we're really excited to be able to build this.
And I just wanted to add, with our backgrounds, for example, I served as a research analyst for a couple of years at a nonprofit organization that focused on providing quality education to children 0 to 5. So I understand the research available and the discussions around limited resources for communities of color, especially for children of color. And also I worked at a university, at Loyola Marymount University, as a research associate. And in there, we looked at different programs and different programs to be able to fill the gap for children in STEM. There's not a lot of role models, a lot of resources, especially not a lot of bilingual resources for children to be able to thrive in STEM. And so based on our experiences, our educational experiences, our work backgrounds, and the research that I've done, for example, we wanted to fill that gap and be advocates to be able to provide those resources for our kids. And I think Nayeli, because she's a preschool teacher, she understands that with children of color, there's a big difference with the quality education that the affluent community receives versus the communities of color. So there are gaps in the resources our children receive. So
yes, and I had the opportunity to work as a home educator where I worked one-on-one with parents, educating them about early childhood education, how to be their child's first teacher. And as the community was mainly Spanish speakers. And that's where I found this big gap where I didn't have a lot of resources in Spanish or bilingual resources where I can help the child start learning English or getting them ready to move on to preschool, to a center where everything's pretty much English. So that's where I was stuck, and I'm like, we need to do something about this because we need to help our community, help them with resources, especially how the first years are very important for a child. And as I started making my own resources, looking for bilingual resources, I started implementing these in my curriculum and the activities that me and the parent would do with the child to help them with the transitions, and as well help them with their language, learning both languages. So I am very happy that my sisters and I are starting this and to provide a lot of good quality resources to our community.
Well, you are clearly meeting such an unmet major gap and major need. I mean, I'm super excited as someone having a daughter we're raising bilingual to know this exists. I feel so fortunate. I connected with you all online to learn about this because we didn't have the right resources, and it makes me feel so much more assured raising her, learning both languages, knowing that this exists. So I would just want to really express my appreciation too that you had the courage to do this and talk a little bit about the process of actually starting the business, because a lot of people can say there's gaps in the system, there aren't resources for our community, and point to all the problems, but not take action and fix it. And so there's something very different about you all that allowed this to come into reality. And I know it's not easy to do it. So how did you get past the fears, the doubts?
I think growing up, our parents set for us to be able to thrive despite our barriers. Understanding that we had limitations because of our undocumented status, but my parents worked so hard to bring us here that they instilled in us that despite these limitations, we needed to thrive, we needed to get an education. And so that's where our energy or our motivation comes from, just knowing that our parents struggled, our immigrant families, other immigrant families struggle the same. So we want to set the example for other immigrant families, other college students may have experienced what we experienced as being undocumented and going to college. We want them to learn that it's possible to build a business and to understand or get this information so that they can also build their business and thrive and not be limited by their status or their limitations and resources.
Yeah, and really, we didn't know how to build a business. We had no idea. We didn't come from business backgrounds, and so and as Nidia keeps saying, the pandemic really changed a lot of our mindsets, and so Nidia really took upon herself to really research how to build a company, how to build a business, how to register our business, our trademark, our name. And so it was really Nidia. She did all the research, the behind the scene research, to be able to bring us to this point. But it was her learning how. I want to really ask her how she did it, because Nayeli and I were sort of like we're her work, not her workers, but we did the back, the other kind of work. But she really set that foundation for us to be able to have this business.
Yeah, it's just I read a lot of books, and that's where we go back. Education is key, reading books is key, and having that abundance mindset is key. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of resources online. I looked at a lot of YouTube videos, what it takes to create an LLC. And I know that for us, we're, even despite having lived through that phase of being undocumented, we're fortunate that we have our status to be able to help us, because it did make it easier for us to be able to register a company. And I know that you had previously had this conversation with other colleagues about undocumented immigrants also having that opportunity to be able to build their own companies. So I like the fact that you're also an advocate for immigrant community, and knowing that despite our status, you can thrive and you can work with the system to be able to build your own company. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. I was just in a meeting earlier today with a local county in Virginia where I live, and it's their kind of business economic development entity and they are very much advocates as well of supporting immigrants. And we were talking about how it really is the best opportunity for undocumented people, because there's nothing saying you can't, and you don't need that work permit. And not only that, but you can work for yourself and have better working conditions and not have to have, an abusive employer taking advantage of your lack of status. And infinite potential for earning, right? There's no cap when you have your own business. So I'm a huge advocate of it because I've seen what it's done for people who are undocumented in our community, and it is life-changing when you start a business. And also you get to help a lot of other people like you all are doing. Look at this impact you're able to make now. Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about what you were saying about abundance mindset and how that has played a pivotal role in getting this company started and being able to do the work.
Yes, I think growing up, a lot of our families, because of the struggles that we've been through, and because we come from countries where there's limited resource, we sort of take on that mindset that we're just living day to day. But making that shift where there's limited potential for us to grow. For us, we knew that education was important, and we didn't want our limitations to be a barrier to that. And so our mom, for example, she built us, even though we're women, even though we're women of color, even though we look like this, those are not barriers for us to succeed. It may be harder for us, but if you believe in your abilities, if you have skill sets, if you have education, nobody can take that education from you. So that's one of the main things that our parents taught us at an early age. Education will help you thrive, and with the abundance, I think we're building it again with financial literacy. While education was a way for us to move up financially, it's not enough anymore for a lot of families. A lot of colleagues that I know, for example, they have a lot of degrees and higher education, but because they lack the financial literacy, they can't move up. So yeah, financial literacy is key, and with financial literacy, it helps increase your abundance mindset. That you're able to, with the money that you have, you can invest it and grow that money, and there's a lot of resources to be able to help you increase that mindset manifestation. Just being able to understand that there's no limitations to what you can do. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, and I think to Nidia's point, we really grew up in, and I think we never, growing up, we never thought that we were going to have a business. I think that was never like in our minds or in our plans. It's just sort of because of us being able to see that importance of abundance and financial literacy. I mean, we started this company with nothing. We had literally nothing. We have our full-time jobs, and so we're able to work. And with that little bit of money that we have, that's where we started putting into the business, and we have to, pay for the LLC. So it was us putting in that money, and hopefully we'll see it grow. But yeah, we started with nothing, and we're 4 or 5 months in, and so we hope to see that investment as we keep going. And sometimes I think as a business owner, you have that imposter syndrome where you think, okay, am I qualified, am I not qualified, can I do this, can I not do this, will my business grow? But I think that abundance mentality really helps you quiet some of that noise, right? It helps you be confident in yourself. It helps you believe in yourself, trust in your abilities. Because coming from a low income families, we have that mindset that's like, oh, it's the impossible. You can't do that. If you have no money, then you can't build a business. But here I think with us, and there's so many examples of undocumented people, a lot of our communities that have started their business now through the pandemic. We've seen how much that is not the case. We can thrive, we can build our business, but it's just changing our mindset, rewiring how we grew up, creating generational wealth for our families, for our communities, because it can be possible. We just really got to educate ourselves on financial literacy. And we want to be able to provide that resources. And it goes back again to us. Nayeli and I have really learned a lot from Nidia, and it's because she took it upon herself to really learn, that we're really learning on our own, and we know the importance of it now, and then we want to transfer that over to our kids now. And I think it's that domino effect that hopefully we have with our own with our community, with Little Dreamers Publishing, with our bilingual community, that hopefully that really resonates with them, that maybe. And even when Nidia introduced us to the idea of financial literacy, we were like, I don't know, why can we really do this? But I think it's doable, and hopefully our communities really take it into account. And that's why we really want to start early on with our own children. And I always say this, with our own workbooks, we really test it out with our children first, just to see how it'll do. And if they get it, and I mean, Nidia's son, 3 years old, he gets the concept of stock market, then, hopefully, yeah, hopefully more children will be able to pick those up again. But yeah, it's really starting with our own little kids, shifting mindsets, really honing on that abundance mindset, that financial literacy, that yes, you can do it. There's no limitations. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you, and you can do it. You can really build your money, invest in it. Don't save it, because I had to check myself on that with my own daughter, but it's possible. And so we're really planting that little seed with our own communities to see it thrive. And like Nidia keeps saying, that we're so glad that we were able to connect with you and so many other people on Instagram and TikTok, because it's really our community that's helping us grow. It's really educating our community on a grassroots level.
And I also want to add that, for example, she brought a good point. Our own dad, he's a gardener. So I think for our communities, we don't see that there are small businesses, they're entrepreneurs. He built his small business with having his own houses where he went and cut his the grass, but he has his own little company for in Columbus, Ohio, where I used to live. A lot of the communities of color had taco trucks. Those are business owners.
Yep.
So we need to change our narrative as well. They are business owners. They are entrepreneurs. They're building their companies, and it's different. It's different from what the society says that they are, but they are business owners. So I just wanted to point that out, that our community is full of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and we need to showcase their value and their worth, just as any other big company, tech company.
100%.
Yes, and
Please go ahead.
Yes, and Nidia, I remember Nadia, you talking about my dad, how I witnessed how hard he worked in building his landscape business, and I remember being there with him, looking for the addresses to go to the locations and translating, and I think his perseverance stayed with us, because look at us now. We're following his example. We're building something for us, and also to make him proud. Like, look, Dad, this is what we're making because you inspire us. You never give up on your landscape business, even though when I did see him, struggle with his business, he kept going, and he has a big landscape services that he provides to our community. So I'm very proud of him, and we're very happy that we have a great dad that instilled in us that we can do anything that we put our mindset to.
This is so inspiring, you all. They're saying so many really, really important things. I want to highlight just a few of the points you're making. So with the abundance mindset, yeah, it's really all about your mindset and those little shifts you can make, like what you told your daughter, Nadia. Let's switch from the saving to the investing, and Nidia, what you're saying about just like believing you can do it despite the barriers. That's why we're constantly posting like more abundant affirmations and stuff on, and there are things we're telling ourselves that we have to hear too. I think we relate a lot in our business to yours because they both come from a place of struggle. Ours comes from, we were really, really struggling financially when my husband immigrated here, and there were no resources. So at some point, we did the same thing you're doing now, where let's make it then if it doesn't exist, because it shouldn't have to be this way, and other people deserve to have better, right? So I'm just so proud and appreciative again of what you're doing, because it's coming from the heart. It's coming from what you wish you had for your children and for yourselves growing up. And you're going to be successful because of that, because it's what you're meant to be doing, right? And it's needed. It's really, really needed. As you also talked about how important education is, but how it doesn't just stop there. I was thinking that I wanted to talk about the same thing, that's something I see a lot in the immigrant communities. It's drilled into people that you have to go to college, you have to get a graduate degree and become a professional. Yet there's all these people doing that are still struggling financially and aren't building wealth. And it's the information that is passed down, not in school, about making your money work for you and getting out of trading time for money and learning how to have the multiple streams of income and all of that is really what needs to be broadcast more widely. So I'm very excited for these concepts to start coming at a younger age. And yeah, on that note, speaking more a little bit about finances and business, now that you've had these experiences and mindset too, is there anything in particular that you've learned, maybe that we haven't touched on, that you think is really important for the immigrant community specifically to know about?
I think it's just shifting that mindset that, for example, I saw a movie over the summer that in our community, it's either saving money or trying to win the lottery. Those are sort of the main narratives that are embedded in our communities. So we need to change that mindset, that narrative, that there's other ways to be able to build generational wealth. Investing in the stock market and investing in your education on financial literacy are important to be able to help you thrive financially, be able to not be stuck in a 9 to 5 job where it's not a healthy environment. It perhaps may not be a healthy environment. So there's other ways to be able to think about money and to thrive. So that's one thing that I want to pass on to my kids. It's just build that financial literacy early on, and investing early on is key to be able to build your money. I think that's one of the things that we lack in our community because we don't know the system at all. But with my children, for example, I have their custodial accounts opened a year ago, so that it builds. It slowly builds. I invest in it, and hopefully, once they're old enough, they can get an education and continue building their own wealth. But that's one of the things, is just building financial literacy early on and opening up custodial accounts, opening 529 plans for your kids to be able to set them up for a good foundation later on in life. So that's one of the recommendations or one of the insights I have about financial literacy in our immigrant communities.
I also want to throw in that there's the option for Roth IRAs for business owners who employ their children, which is a big advantage as well.
Yes, definitely. That's one of the areas that a lot of small businesses need to tap into to be able to allow children to build their custodial or Roth IRA as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Anything else you all want to add?
Yes, I think one of the things I want to add is that Nidia always keeps repeating to us, when you invest, you don't need to have large amounts of money.
Right.
Just investing like $50 from your paycheck, $20 each month,
Yep.
that helps instead of not doing anything at all. And so I think I want to really point that out, that it doesn't take a lot of money to invest. Just, that mindset of like, okay, instead of wasting it on Starbucks or any other thing, you can really pay yourself, and put that money towards your your accounts and really build that.
Absolutely. Great. One other question I have for y'all is, what is the number one lesson that you wish you had learned about starting a business or about finance at an early age in the beginning of your journey?
For me, it's just knowing how to start a business. We didn't know how to do that. And so one of the things that we also want to do maybe later on is be able to provide that information for our kids, how to, and also children's books, how to build a business, what are the steps that you need to be able to grow a successful business. I know that in the African American community, there's a growing list of children's books that talk about this, about how to be investors, how to be entrepreneurs. And so we want to also bring that into our company and build different workbooks and also children's books that allow kids to grow up with that knowledge and have that mindset to be able to know that they can be business owners and have that as they grow up. Yeah.
Well, I will happily be one of the first to buy the book, and would love to see that. This has been so informative and really, really inspiring to hear your stories and what you're doing and how much you're going to change the community through your work. Is there anything else you want to add that we haven't touched on?
Yes, I just want to add that thank you for providing us with this time to be able to share our mission about our company, because we do want to provide bilingual workbooks to our communities, to our kids. And as I mentioned in other areas, in other places, we want our book to be able to help parents and kids make those connections together. I know that for a lot of our communities, that same book can be used for Spanish-speaking only parents who have kids growing up who are primarily English learning. So they can use that same book and have those connections together. And so we want to build our company based off on that. And also one of our long-term goals is for paying it forward to our community, because we understand how difficult it is for our community to get a quality education, is that hopefully in the long run we'll be able to provide scholarships to our little dreamers, to our undocumented students aspiring to go to college. So that's one of our long-term goals, to be an advocate company for our communities. And so that's one of our missions, to be able to thrive in our communities. Thank you.
Such a beautiful vision. Thank you. And where can people find you and follow you? Where can they buy the book? We'll definitely link it below as well.
Yes. So we have different social media platforms, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube, and they're all under Little Dreamers Publishing. We just opened our Etsy account where our books are available. We do have a Christmas discount to be able to provide that for our community. We are in the process of building our own website, so hopefully next year that'll be available. But in Instagram, it'll be the Little Dreamers Publishing. We also have it on Pinterest, and we have the link tree available where we have all of our links of all of our social handles. And all of our books are also available on Amazon. So they're available on Amazon, and we are going to come out with our first children's book hopefully early next year, and that'll be available on Amazon and Etsy, and we'll be able to distribute it internationally in other countries. So we're excited for that.
Amazing. The future is so bright for you all, and I'm so excited for everyone who's going to be able to get access to these books. So thank you so much for the work you're doing and sharing your story. It's been such a pleasure to hear about it and connect.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being such an advocate for the immigrant community. I think we gravitated towards your company because we understand how important it is for our our immigrant community to be educated. And so think that it really makes a difference.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to continue partnering and seeing how we can support each other in the work and staying in touch. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it was great to meet you all over video.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Bye.